Hello, in today's video we're going to be replacing the battery on the 2017 GMC Terrain. Twice already I had trouble starting in cold weather, but in warmer weather starts fine. And on this last time a message of service Stabilitrak popped up, which also happened on the Malibu I did about a year back. So let's get started with the battery removal, testing, and replacement. First we'll want to remove this ECU cover, and to do this all we gotta do is press down on this tab and slide the cover to the right. Now we just gotta slide it off the 4 slots by sliding it to the right. And here you can see 2 of the tabs and the other 2 are on the opposite end. And you can see the slots on the bottom. Now to move the ECU out of the way, we gotta remove this one bolt using a 10mm socket. It also helps to have an extension on it to give you enough room so the wires don't get in the way. Once you get the bolt off, all you gotta do is slide the ECU to the right so it slides off the bracket. And this is the bracket that the ECU mount slides into. And when reinstalling it, you'll want to make sure that they slide into these 2 slots. We can just place the ECU to the side so it's out of the way. And this is where I place the ECU for now. We're now ready to disconnect the battery. We always want to start with the negative because it's much safer in case you hit something metal as you're loosening it. Once you get it loose, you can just wiggle the terminal up and off. You'll want to place the terminal somewhere so it's out of the way. Followed by the positive terminal. But for this one you'll want to use a 10mm wrench because of the lack of space. And again, once you get it loose, just wiggle the terminal up and off. You'll want to place it where it won't get in the way as you remove the battery. We'll now need to remove this hold down bracket. We can use the same 10mm socket to loosen this hold down nut. Now to get to this other bolt, we'll need to remove these 3 clips holding on this plastic cover. You can use a flat blade screwdriver like I'm using here, or you can use a proper clip remover. To get these clips off, just lift the middle part up, and that allows you to remove the remainder of the clip. Or you can pull the entire middle piece up and off, and pull the lower part of the clip after. And now just repeat the same on the 3rd clip. Now that all 3 clips are off, we can just fold this cover piece up. This piece kinda has a hinge that allows you to fold it up. And that's where the piece kinda hinges. Now we just gotta remove this last bolt using a 10mm socket. And with that, the bracket and the battery can now come off. Just gotta wiggle the bracket off of the threads, and the bracket can completely come off. Now to get the battery off, you'll want to grasp it good on both sides, and slide it up and off. Now to give it a quick test on this battery tester, just to see if the battery is really the problem. It'll ask you for the cold cranking amps, which is on the battery label showing 660. And as you can see, it's telling us that we lost about 30% of its cold cranking amp capacity. The battery will still function, but in colder weather it might struggle, since the engine requires more cranking amps in colder weather, and unfortunately the battery supplies less cranking amps in colder weather. This is the battery I'll be installing. It's a little stronger than the original, but not sure about the fitment. The top part looks a little different. I guess we'll find out shortly how it fits. Now to install a new battery. One good thing, this one has a handle, so I can just lower it in with one hand and move the terminal out of the way. We can just lift up and off these protective covers that it has on both posts. Well, let's find out how well this bracket's gonna fit. Yeah, this bracket definitely fits taller than the other. It's not much, but I don't like it. I'm sure as you tighten down the bolt, it'll bend on the bracket, but that's not what it should have to do. Well, let's see what happens as I install and tighten down the nut and the bolt. Well, it did tighten down fine, but the bracket did bend down a little. Well, let's go ahead and reinstall the battery terminal, starting with the positive. We'll want to tighten it and make sure that it doesn't have any movement afterwards. And that's pretty nice and tight. Now just put the protector on, followed by the negative terminal. And once again, after you tighten it, you want to make sure that it doesn't move around. Now to slide the ECU in place. You'll want to slide it further to the right so the bracket's able to slide into the slots. If you feel them slide in, just pull up slightly, and if it feels firmly in place, that means that they both grabbed on. We can now install and tighten the bolt. Now for the ECU cover. Just slide an outward tabs into the slots and push it to the left till you hear the tab click. And finally this panel piece plus the 3 clips. Some people use memory savers to make sure that all the computer's memories and radio presets are saved, but for me personally, it's not worth the risk, and possibly damaging your electronics, so I avoid them. But in this case, the truck still had all the presets saved in the time that it took to replace and test the battery. Well, I hope you were able to find this video helpful and informative. If you did, please click that thumbs up button to support my video and my channel. And please subscribe if you haven't done so.